The Daily Maverick is reporting that Brian Shivambu signed a secret contract admitting receiving over 4.5 million rand from VBS Bank without doing any work. The brother of EFF Deputy President Floyd Chivambo signed an agreement to pay back the money in March last year. For more on this, we're joined by Daily Maverick journalist Pauli Van Wyk. Pauli, thank you so much for making time. So 4.5 million rand to be paid back. This is an admission from Brian Shivambu that the money that in fact flowed from Vele Investments is money that was paid for work that was not done, which is contrary to what he's told us previously, that the relationship that he had with Vele Investments was on a consultancy basis, and the money that he got paid from Vele Investments was for work that was done by his company.
Yes, absolutely, Clement. You are summarizing it well. So in essence, he signed a contract, an acknowledgement of debt to legitimize a crime because he was literally dumped with VBS millions, in this case specifically 4.55 million rand, for having done nothing.
So what does it mean, Pauli? Maybe help our viewers also understand why this is important. It's crucial, I imagine, because Vele Investments was the shareholder for VBS. It played a crucial part in the money that was looted from VBS. So help us understand how Scameka Projects, which is a company owned by Brian Shivambu, had a relationship with Vele Investments, and how then Vele benefited from the VBS loot.
It is important because this is an acknowledgement for the first instance that millions of rand was dumped into Scameka Projects, which is the company of Brian, for no good reason. And obviously then one needs to ask, so why did you receive millions of rand from a bank or a bank owner for no work done? Then on the other hand, we already know that this Scameka Projects of Brian was a front company that utilized the money and dumped, it flowed right through Scameka. It dumped the money into two different front companies for Floyd Chivambo and Julius Malema. So we know that the circle is starting to close now from the first that money was received for no good reason. In other words, it was stolen money. And on the other hand, it was money that was utilized by politicians. In the second, or the third point to make there is that Matotsi, the chair of VBS Bank and Vele, that was accused of being the main player in the fraud at VBS, ensured that he sent messages to Popo or Popi Mukudobwani, who was the treasurer at the bank, and ensured that he paid money right into Scameka, saying this is a crucial bank account, it's a strategic bank account, and these are lobbying fees. This is the picture painted by us for the story. Going right back to your question is how, what's the relationship, is that Vele was the main shareholder. Money was dumped into Brian Shivambu's bank account, which is Scameka Projects, this company that he supposedly did work for. So he lied to the public when we questioned him about why he received the money. Now we know he acknowledged in secret that he received the money for no good reason. He funneled the money right through to his brother and his EFF leader and the EFF party. So the party's 4th birthday bash was funded by VBS money, we already know, and Daily Maverick proved it. Further luxury cars, properties, clothes, groceries, parties was funded by the VBS money. So in essence, this is again a piece of a puzzle to prove that a crime was committed.
Yeah. So Pauli, paying back this 4.5 million rand, does it then absolve him of any criminal charges, or is there still a possibility, in fact, for criminal charges to be pursued in this case?
Such an important question, Clement. No, it doesn't. There were many crimes committed. It's not only theft here. As we said, money was funneled through a front company right through to Floyd Chivambu and Julius Malema, who were the end users or the end beneficiaries. So we're also talking about several corruption crimes, money laundering crimes, obfuscation. So we know that the money went through several bank accounts, and several crimes were committed. So even if you pay the money back, you're not absolved from the consequences of your deed. And that's the first point. The second point is obviously to remember that the money is paid back because he was caught out. And that doesn't mean that you're now absolved of the consequences. You were caught out and you paid the money back, but you still committed the crime. And now the Hawks and the prosecuting authorities should do their work.
So some people will ask, why then are you bringing in Julius Malema and Floyd Chivambo and the EFF into this, when Brian Shivambu is a private citizen who has been running this business privately? But you indicated earlier that you followed the money and you've been able to prove, even in your previous investigations, that in fact some of this money that was paid to Gameka projects, to Brian Shivambu, Floyd Chivambu's brother, actually made it into the pockets of people like Floyd Shivambu, Julius Malema, and the EFF.
Yes, indeed. And I'm so happy that people are asking that question because it's important. So we are focusing on Brian Shivambu, but we also know, and that is the power of investigative journalism, after much investigation and months of probing, we know that Brian wasn't the user of the money. Brian utilized very little of the VBS millions for himself. He funneled it through his own company right through to two front companies where it was utilized by Floyd Chivambu and Julius Malema. They were the end users of the VBS loot. Now, even if the face of it, if we will, in colloquial language, is Brian Shivambu, we know that the beneficiaries are Floyd Chivambu and Julius Malema, and that is why we have to bring in the two leaders, because they propped up their lifestyle, they propped up their political aspirations by funding the EFF, the birthday parties and accommodation costs and traveling costs for party members. It's clear they bought carpets, and it seems like they paid rent for the EFF from these VBS millions. And we can trace all the money because we have the bank accounts and we have messages and we have sources helping us to understand the larger context. Now, they spent it also on, we may remember, Mail and Guardian told us that it was the Range Rover that Floyd Chivambu bought with VBS money, and Julius Malema bought a Sandown property. So it's very clear that they propped up their lifestyle and their political aspirations with the depositors' money in VBS.
So are we ever going to see accountability on the part of these politicians? Yes, they may not have been the ones running the companies and at the forefront of running and doing business with companies like Vele Investments, which were so central in the looting of VBS. But if your investigations, as you say, are correct, the money has flowed to them, it's landed in their pockets. Do you think we'll ever see accountability, political accountability? I know we have about 15 people so far that have been arrested, including the accounting officers, people like Philip Truter, people like the leaders of Vele Investments. But what about political accountability? Are we ever going to see that?
So just on your point of running the company, it wasn't Brian that ran the company. Remember that when I say he was the face of the company, I literally mean it. He was instructed by these faceless people that we later realized was the party leader and his brother, what to do with this account and how to receive it, and that he will receive it and where to pay the money through. So he didn't run it. He was just the face of it. And then towards your point of political accountability, one politician that I did write about and investigated, Daniel Caesar, the Limpopo ANC leader, is already charged with several crimes among the 15 charged that you mentioned now. Of those 15, only Philip Truter, the former CFO, pleaded guilty. The rest of the 14, there are 13 men and 1 woman, involved in the municipalities. They were business people along with Danny Caesar, like Motsepe. And then we have the auditors and the lawyers and the bank managers also charged with corruption, money laundering, several provisions under POCA and PRECA, which is mainly our corruption legislation. So we hope that they will be put through the court process and trial should start soon. And then political accountability for the EFF leaders. Well, again, the Hawks and the prosecuting authority should do their work. Investigative journalists like I and journalists like you probing and shining a light on the facts can only do so much. We can only tell the people there's a contract that was hiding a crime. This is how the crime was committed, and you have a right to know who you vote for. And that is why we give you the information so that you can make a choice. But we cannot lay charges at the police. We cannot ensure that the Hawks do their work, and we cannot ensure that the prosecuting authority do their work. The only thing is we discuss it, we shine a light on it, and from here on, the NPA should stand up and do their work.